Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Grove. My name is Hawk, and today I'm doing a ramble about my gender identity, which is genderqueer, which is why I have this lovely little pride skin on. And now that I've shown it off, I can go put back my armor on. Also, these wings are non-canonical, so if you've been watching my Lorecraft episodes and wonder why I have wings when I, definitely do not, that is why. So, while I ramble, I'm also going to be getting some jungle wood, which I am pretty sure is in this direction. I need it for a project. But I figured since I had space in my upload schedule and since I had something to do, I figured I'd do a little ramble. So that's what we're doing today. And I was right. The jungle is over here. I'm probably going to get I don't know, maybe 9 stacks of wood. I will figure out what I want in a moment. So, I identified as what I would now known as cis for most of my life, mainly because I didn't have the words for anything else. My first sort of probably interaction with gender had to be when I was young. Specifically a story that I know from when I was young is that I went up to my dad, he was in like the kitchen or something, and asked him, it's like, hey, how many sons do you have? And he answered the amount of brothers that I have. And because I was the only girl in our family for the kids. And so there was like 3 brothers and then me. So he's like, oh, I have 3 sons. I'm like, okay, well, how many daughters do you have? And he goes, only 1. And I'm like, yes, that's right, only 1. Which, first off, is an adorable interaction. But I bring that up because upon further the more I thought about that story, especially after realizing I was non-binary, I'm like, I know exactly what kind of question formation was that. Because it didn't, ask anything specific, because I didn't know the specific knowledge or, language. But I was checking information. I was checking to see if I was right. If I, was understanding the social dynamics first. I don't think I had, an internal understanding of who I was gender-wise. I was just taking cues from everybody else. And I noticed that I was being treated differently than my family. Well, than my brothers. So that was probably my first interaction with gender. And I'm actually going to keep I at least want, a few jungle saplings. So that was probably the first interaction with gender that came chronologically, except I actually didn't know that interaction until my late teens, maybe early 20s. I'm in my mid-20s now, but I don't remember exactly when I was brought up. So that would have been my first interaction with gender. For me, though, I also didn't really feel like I connected with... I was just sort of, apathetic in terms of gender, because, I seemed to match up with what people said was a girl, but all I knew was oh, this is how you present and this is how your body is. There was no understanding anything beyond that, so I didn't have sort of the understanding of anything more than that. So, but when I was in elementary school, I distinctly remember not really knowing how to fit in with the girls, and then also feeling like guys had this sort of an unspoken rule set or code that I didn't really know how to fit into, so I just sort of didn't. I kind of just was in recess, just off on my own, because I also just didn't really know, wasn't really close to anybody in general, but I have a distinct memory of trying to fit in with the girls, didn't really know where I fit in with that, tried to fit in with the boys, didn't really fit in with that, and then I went back to the girls because I'm like, at least this is what I call myself. I call myself a girl because that's, as far as I know, the only 2 options, and apparently this was pre-selected for me. So that's where I go with that. But then I started, and since I have no physical dysphoria, it's just like there weren't any indicators of that. And my parents were good parents. They didn't really push any female expectations in terms of dress. Like, yeah, I could wear dresses and skirts if I wanted to. I didn't. If I wanted to wear makeup, my mom definitely would have supported it. I have definitely gone dress shopping many times with my mom. But that's just because, again, I saw myself as female, and frankly, I also have a strong stance that, like, female clothing is just like way better and way more expressive than male clothing. So, like, I kind of looked out on that point. Male clothing is kind of boring, I'm not gonna lie. But that aside, I also have, like, when I began, like, playing Minecraft, it was a lot more of an experimentation. I distinctly remember that because I was sharing an account with my little brother, that I would, like, just pretend to be a guy. Like, if I'm online, then I count as a guy. And I do remember an experience where it was like a faction server or something, and we had just switched from my younger brother and I having the same account to him having his own account, and he mentioned just like, yeah, that other player is my sister. I don't think he remembers this, but I distinctly remember this. I don't remember the exact situation, but I'm like, and for me, I'm just like, why did you, internally, I'm like, why did you tell, like, why did you mention that I'm a girl? And I'm like, oh, well, guess that's over, and sort of moved on with my life. But it just sort of kept happening where I would just be nonchalant about it. Like, I did do a role-playing server, and I put my name put my gender as a girl, because again, that's all I knew, and that's like the characters that I imagined would be female. So it just sort of made sense in my brain. But I always enjoyed being considered a guy, and there was this one moment in high school, and I remember it's high school because of the specific friend I was talking with. I remember, like, having to mention that I'm going off to college. She mentioned something about, like, a certain girl hygiene thing, but she's like, oh, but you probably don't care about that because you're a guy. And I'm like, I'm not a guy. I'm not a guy. Why did you think I was a guy? And she's like, I don't know, you just seemed like a guy. And I found it really funny. But I also really liked it. I'm like, oh, yay. I wasn't perceived as a girl. And I also, years later, when I got into role-playing on Massive Craft, when I did for a while, that I had one character who was specifically a guy. And I remember, like, being interviewed for, it was like some group that my character was going to be in. It was like a guardsperson position, and one of the people, and since I presented as a guy, I was called, when the person was like, okay, yeah, you're in the group, hey, so-and-so, add him to our Discord. And for me, it took like a full, like, 30 seconds. It's like, oh wait, they're talking about me. But specifically a guy. Like, I knew they were talking about me specifically because I was, like, playing a guy character. But I'm like, oh wait, right, I'm playing a guy character, so it's specifically male pronouns. I still got it. That was the exact phrase that I thought. I still got it. I still was able to be perceived as male, and something, like, I really liked about that. Didn't unpack that. just like in college, which would have been before this experience, I just didn't unpack the fact that the character that I had created to sort of represent myself, a la Side's sort of like concept, where one character represents a side of yourself. The character I had created to represent my queer identity was non-binary and used they them pronouns. Well, at that moment, it was she they pronouns, but now they just use they them. And I even have a thought. It's like, is this a sign that I'm non-binary? I'm like, no, because I don't have physical dysphoria, because I hadn't like processed everything, hadn't figured out even a stance of like, is non-binary a thing? Is being trans without physical dysphoria thing? So I just had not unpacked that. But as I grew in massive craft with having that experience with my character Blake, and then also having like the concept of, not concept, but also playing other characters who had they them pronouns. So I had one character, Evelyn, who you, if you've seen the Purgatorium series on my channel, you would have seen Evelyn, and they actually use she they pronouns. It doesn't ever come up, and I have mixed feelings about that character because they're not a good character in the sense that they're pretty mean. But like that character sort of introduced they them pronouns for me using them specifically, and then I also like continued to use them for like the character after they died on Okan, the server I was playing on, where it was just they them, and I really liked it. And I was like and I was like thinking about this while sitting on the toilet one day. I'm not joking. I know specifically the location of where I'm like, oh, I'm non-binary. That explains so much. I didn't know exactly what specific label, because I thought like bigender was the closest thing, but I'm like, it doesn't really feel right. So for a long time, for a little while, I like, okay, just blanket. I'll just say I'm non-binary until I figure it out. And for me, I know I am somewhere on the gender spectrum. I know it's on the female end because that would explain why I have no physical dysphoria, even though I was born female. But at the same time, I know I'm not female, and I don't think that my and I don't think I'm female. It's like not like partially female. It's just it's not female, but it's like I have a female body, if that makes sense. But I don't feel female. It feels like to present as a female, like being referred to as she pronouns, it feels like I'm wearing formal clothes. It's like the difference between formal and not formal clothes, like casual clothing, which is the best way I can describe it. Because it's not like, oh, it feels like, oh, frills and dresses are too like girly and that's why. It's like, no, it's not my clothes are gender neutral. It's the difference between if someone is addressing me formally versus someone who's addressing me as I feel closest like I am, where I can relax and where I feel most comfortable. And when I was sort of like fully transitioning into, yes, I do want to identify as this, I actually got to join Lorecraft. It sort of happened at the same time. Don't blow my items, please. Oh, well, I missed out on some wood, but it's okay. I have many stacks. I probably don't need this many, but screw it. Where was I? I forgot where I was. I was thinking about. Oh yeah, so I joined Lorecraft, and Lorecraft is very gender positive in the sense that like most people use they them pronouns and not. Am I going the right? I am not going the right way. Hold on. Most people use they them pronouns either in addition to another pronoun such as she they or they she. Um, most people I like are even like me who just primarily use they them pronouns. And so it was very I could practice like having they them pronouns, and I chose, you know what, let me see how I feel if I just do they them pronouns, and it felt so good. It felt like I was actually presenting as myself, and especially after coming out to my parents, it felt like I was actually interacting them where I was presenting as myself and not as some like projection of me. Because that's sort of what it felt like. It felt like when I was trying to be like present as female, even if it wasn't presenting as feminine, because I don't wear makeup, that's never been part of my gender presentation. It felt like I was, I don't know, hiding something or not being actually able to relax, and like there's something always missing. And when I became a girl, not became a girl, hold on, I like that. When I became not being able to say that I'm not a girl, it was a lot. It was very freeing because I didn't have that. I felt like I could actually be representing myself in an authentic light, and like I wasn't lying to people. Because that's what it felt like. It felt like I was lying and not being truthful when I could be truthful. Because I just didn't know. I didn't have the language for what I was experiencing. All I knew was that this is how things are, I guess. Oh, that's the dress box. So, my gender identity is somewhere female. That doesn't really, that comes from like not having physical dysphoria, but I do have like social dysphoria-ish sometimes. It's more often that I have sort of gender euphoria, or just like suddenly I'm wrapped in a cozy warm blanket that just got pulled out of the dryer when people refer to me as they them or he him, where it's just, you know, nice. It's okay if people call me like she her pronouns. I don't really care. Like, well, I mean I do care, but it won't feel accurate. It won't feel like, oh, this is correct, which I think is a huge thing. And now that I know, I can actually present myself as someone who is fully me. And I don't feel like I'm hiding. I feel like even if it's online, I'm actually talking to people who are like face to face. And I did get asked recently by someone who I came out to, and they're like, did you not feel like, do you feel like the expectations of being a female, of being a girl, were like they were too much? And I mean, yeah, in a way, just not in a way that I think they were getting at. Mainly because I also don't know exactly what they meant by that. Where did I put? There it is. Because for me, it was more of a like presentation. like girls present themselves a certain way, and I never really felt like, I always knew that I wasn't feminine. That was the thing. I always knew I wasn't feminine, that I looked at girly girls and I wouldn't see myself at all. So that I always knew. I just didn't know exactly where it came from, nor have the words to really express what that meant. And then I learned more about being non-binary and what that meant, and that people could even be non-binary, or that people could have a gender identity with, like, not the physical dysphoria, but more of the, like, social dysphoria. And I'm like, oh, that explains so much now. So, and that's really what it is. It's an explanation of my experience. And I eventually settled on genderqueer because I know I'm not cisgender. I know I'm not the gender that my body is typically assigned to, but I don't exactly know what it is. I have a gender, I know for sure, but it's weird. It's a gender and it's weird, therefore it's genderqueer, because queer means weird. I know it can be used, I know queer can be used as like a bad thing, as like a slur, but for me, because I didn't have that experience with queer, I had always thought of it as like a synonym for the LGBTQ community. I always seen it as a positive thing. You can call me queer, it's and for me, it's like, oh, it's gender that does not align with the normal understandings of gender for me. So for me, and the flag is also, purple and green, which are my channel colors. It's like the lavender, and then the green. So it's like the perfect identity flag for me. So it just sort of made sense to use this specific term. Because I also don't feel like, I mentioned bigender earlier, and the concept is like two genders at once, but I don't feel like I have two genders at once. I feel a stable one gender identity that does not fit, that can't be fully encapsulated as just female or is a female. So I'm not a girl. Also because I'm an adult, so I don't see that, so I don't think that's accurate. I'm not a woman. I am a non-binary individual, specifically a genderqueer one. So that's my gender as I understand it. And it's been really nice just to choose that. And there are definitely other moments that helped me point to it other than those specific ones. For example, I distinctly remember Toon Link in Smash Bros. Just being like, oh yeah, it's a guy, but skirt. It's close enough to being female, right? Like, that was the thought. That was legitimately the thought process that I had. And whenever I'd have, be playing characters, if I had a gender option that wasn't female, I would take it. For example, I did have played Monster Prom before, and I would always choose that, shadow character and use they, them pronouns. Something about they, them pronouns made me very happy. So, I did. I ended up with understanding my identity more. I don't think I have anything else to talk about on that subject, and I don't want to finish my basement until the Saturday stream, because I'm going to start streaming on Saturdays. this weekend at 6 CST, or well, I guess it's this weekend for me, but it's probably later in the day for you if you're watching this. So at 6 CST, I'm going live on the streaming channel. I'm gonna have it put in the description. And so this weekend, I'm gonna actually fix this up, finish my basement because I do have a design for it, and maybe make a bridge, and probably make a bunch of moss. But for right now, thank you for hearing me ramble, even if it was on just this was on in the background while doing art or something. And if you were watching the whole thing, thank you, I guess. I hope my chopping down wood was entertaining. And yeah. I also have the link to my Lorecraft playlist in the end screen, as well as my other rambles, because I've rambled about color theory and stuff. Maybe not that one, I'll figure it out, but at least my Lorecraft one, so you can see the character I play, who also uses they, them pronouns. So it's been really, really great. And yeah, hope to see you next time, and goodbye.